What's happening, y'all? Hey, welcome back, everyone. So, my whole purpose, again, to jumping in with you is just to share a little bit of what is happening in our economy today. That is the entire purpose of this podcast. That is the entire purpose of this channel. And I know some of you might be watching me on Facebook, and some of you might be watching me on YouTube as well, and even Twitter. But, anyways, the purpose is still the same, and that is to know what is happening with your money, what is happening with this economy. So, with that being said, earlier today, I made a video about where the real estate market is at right now with inflation going on, with home prices going up the way that they are, and all of that good stuff. So, the purpose for me to you is to give you, just to have an idea of if you are thinking of either purchasing a home or either just thinking about where what moves you want to make within the next couple months, couple years. That is what I want to give to you. Now, my I'm not giving you any advice. My idea is just to give you what I have done and some of the moves that have helped me adjust and pivot as inflation is hitting and as all of this craziness that we're seeing in this world is hitting your wallet and how it's affecting you either positively or negatively, because out of all of this craziness that we're seeing right now, something good is going to come out of this. Without further ado, let me share with you real quick what I have just, this article that I just came across, and I wanted to share with you so that you can see what it costs now to raise a child in the year 2022. So now, based on this article that I just came across, which is a Wall Street Journal article, it now costs $300,000 to raise a child. That is correct, ladies and gentlemen. That is $300,000 on average per year to raise a child. Not too long ago, I believe it was 2020, it was costing about $230,000 just to raise a child. I made a video where the average cost to raise a child up to the year 2018, 2019, it was costing around roughly, I think it was $140,000. You can watch it on the YouTube video channel that I have right now. And it just talks about, the inflationary times that we're facing right now. But up to the year 2018, 2019, 2020, it was costing roughly $140,000. 2020, actually, it was $237,000. As you can see here, the cost of raising a child through high school has risen to more than $300,000 because of inflation that is running close to a 4-decade high. You got to go back to 1982. As I was explaining earlier on the video that I made, back in 1980s, the interest rates for a house was around roughly 18%. Today, as the shooting of this video is about 5%, 5.25%. I don't know the exact number, but it's roughly around the 5%. Got to go back to 1982 to understand really where the interest rates were at that point for you to really get an idea of how high the interest rates were versus what they are right now versus what they were just 6 months ago, 2 years ago. All-time low. And the reason for that was obviously because of the great recession that we saw back in 2008, 2009, that was caused due to the real estate market that we saw in 2009. So with that being said, it is determined that a married couple, middle class income, is anywhere from $60 to $100,000 a year, would spend anywhere from $310,000 on average, $18,000 a year to raise their young child through the age of 17 years old. Now, again, this is not always accurate. That is on average because some individuals, some families have their kids on private school. Now, when you have your kids on private school, you're paying about $40,000 a year, $50,000 a year, $30,000 a year. If you have them in public school, you eliminate that. You might not be spending the $18,000 a year. You might be spending a little bit less than that. Maybe you spend $18,000 a year. We just don't know. But this is the average. It is $18,000 a year just to raise the child through age 17. The multi-year total is $26,000, more than 9% more. It was based on a calculation that was based on the inflation rate just 2 years ago, before the rapid price increase back in 2020. Again, as I was sharing to you, 2020 was $237,000 on average just to raise this child that you have. Now you say, Hallelujah, I have a child. Great, perfect. Now, how we're going to deal with that? So, as you can see this chart right here, it just goes and shows you how the adjusted annual inflation of 2.2% versus the adjusted inflation of 4.0% after 2020. I don't know if you understand what this really means, but basically what this is saying is that on average, we see inflation going on no more than 2%. This last couple of months, we have seen it at above 6%, 7%, 8%, 9%. The month of June, May, June, July, 9% inflation. That means that if you have $100,000 sitting on the bank, you take away 9%, you technically have about $91,000 sitting on the bank. I was just talking to one of my clients yesterday. She's getting ready to buy a house. And she told me, you know what? I have this much in debt. I have about $15,000 in my car. I have $6,000 in debt, in student loan debt. And I have about $2,000 in credit card. Great. And then on top of that, guess what? I have $40,000 in the bank, sitting in the bank, nice and still. I said to her, have you considered the fact of getting those $40,000 out of the bank? Okay. 40,000, you take out the $40,000 out of the bank. You pay your $15,000 of your car. You pay the $6,000 in your student debt. You pay the $2,000 in your credit card. That will give you roughly an amount of $22,000. So that means that you have $18,000 still sitting on the bank. Well, I want to buy a house for $450,000. Great. I want to buy a house for $450,000. So right now, what we're seeing is if you get a house of, let's just say, you get a house for $450,000 to use this example, and then you get approved for a conventional loan, which we're seeing them right now at a 3.5%. We have not seen this type of loans in such a long time. A 3.5, 3.5% down. You see a conventional loan at a 20% down payment. You avoid the PMI, which is private mortgage insurance. You avoid that when you give the 20% down. When you buy an investment, total different story. You got to give the 20% down. But typically, an individual who cannot afford the 20% down, they go with an FHA, which is a federal backed loan, 3.5% down. You give your PMI the 3.5%, but you have your PMI on top of your mortgage and then your interest. Okay, so now what the lenders have done is we have conventional loans with as little as 3.5%. I haven't personally dealt with any of those, but I have dealt with loans at a 5% on a conventional. But either way, the point is that, okay, let's just say that you get a conventional loan at 3.5% down payment. So if you have $40,000 in the bank and you pay off all of your debt, that will be $22,000. $40,000 minus $22,000, you're left with $18,000 still sitting on the bank. If you get your house for $450,000 at a 3.5% down payment, you will come up with an average of $15,750 to give us a down payment. Guess what? I'm only going to have $3,000 in the bank. How can I even do that? Great, no problem. Still, get your loan, get a good interest rate, pay your debt off. Guess what's going to happen? That's going to alleviate you an additional $600 a month that is not going to go any longer towards your debt. Now, guess what? Now I have those additional $600, $7,200 a year just sitting on the bank. If I decide to save it, or if I decide to just pay off my mortgage, just contribute to my principal, then that's what I can do. But the point of that I'm trying to make is that when you have the money just sitting still on the bank, with inflation going on right now, let's just say it's 8%, which is not, but let's just say it's 8%, and that is a conservative number considering how high it is today, because on average we're seeing it at around 2%, no more than 2% a year. If you can see that, if you have your money in the bank and just have it just sitting there, you're losing at about 8% purchasing power, which means that I no longer have $40,000. I now have about, 33,000 dollars just sitting on the bank. And that is a reality. That's literally what I have just sitting on the bank without just doing anything. But anyways, this is just to show you the blue line means just 4%. The yellow line means an average of 2%. And then you go back to 2015, when how much it would cost to raise a child. On 2015, it was roughly about $12,000, 12,500 to raise a child. You can see it gradually just going up. In 2021, it actually went down. 2022, you see it, just about flat. And then from there, it just started taking off. And then it is projected to be this high, as you see it, in 2032, as it is adjusting for inflation. So again, the report that I'm reading to you here is high inflation has meant that boys week in this case, as we're seeing here, or girls night out, or I'm going to have my friends sleep over, or I'm going to get on the weekends to go to the beach, or I'm going to go on the weekends to go to the pool house. Whatever that one thing is that was going to costing you on average about $100, maybe $200 just for that weekend, guess what? It's no longer there. Why? Because of inflation. As you can see it here, it has increased from 2015 all the way up to 2022, just on average of $3,000. $3,000 over the last 5 years. Do the math. $3,000. You divide that by 7 years. It has increased on average just $428 every single year. That is costing you and your family to do that. So again, my point is that you ought to know where your money is heading. Because for me personally, how I was able to get out of debt is I used to listen to Dave Ramsey a lot. Dave Ramsey taught me a lot. He showed me how to get out of debt. I was able to get out of debt in no time. But then I realized, well, I have this money sitting on the bank. What am I going to do with that money? How can I make my money work for me? Because right now I'm working for money. But there's a point in life where you want to make your money work for yourself. You no longer want to work for money. There's got to be a point where, you say, you know what, honey, I'm done. Why don't we put our money to work? But who says that at the kitchen table? When you're having dinner with your family, do you talk to your spouse like that? Do you say, you know what, honey, how do we make our money to work for us? You may talk about, some dreams and goals that you may have. Great. That's beautiful and all. But do you really sit down and analyze how you're going to have your money work for you? Do you do that? That is literally a question that I'm asking you, the person watching this right now. Do you sit down with your family? Do you do that with your spouse, with your mom, with your grandma, sister, brother? How do we get out of debt? How do we make our money go to work for us? Because not a lot of people think like that. But that is something that I had to think. That is a pivot. That is a shift that I had to make in my mind in order for me to realize that there's going to be a point where I can no longer work for money. I have to put the money to work. So guess what I did? I said, honey, you know what? We gotta cut this. We gotta make a sacrifice for the next 2 to 3 years in order for us to have this much money in the bank, in order for us to go buy us an investment property. And if we do that, we're not gonna have this car payment. We're not gonna have that credit card payment. We're not gonna have this student loan debt payment, which we never had. None of us went to school. I went to school, but fortunately, I had the VA loan. I'm very fortunate for that. But guess what? If I didn't have that, I literally would just for pleasure, just for the networking of the sake of it, just for the sake of networking. That's all I went to school for. Nowadays, you don't need to go to school. You can come to someone like myself. Here. I'm not saying that I'm going to teach it all. I'm not saying that I'm the expert. But what I have is some of the failures that I had in life, because not everything in my life has been parades and roses and people just paving the way for me to do better in life. It has been a struggle, especially when it came to money. But I've always found a way. I've always found a way. I've always been curious to know how the game of money works, which is why I come on live here to you live from the city of Paris, California, giving to you this feedback out here on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, so that you can therefore take the action, the uncomfortable action for you to understand how the game of money works. The purpose of this video is just to show you how much has it increased in order for you to raise a child. And as we see here, it now costs on average $300,000 just to raise a child. Think about that. $300,000 at the age through the age of 17, you divide it by 17, that is on average $18,000. $18,000 when it was just costing $12,000 just 7 years ago. It has gone up on average of $1,000 for the past year or so. So with that is, how do we adjust? Because you're going to have to cut back. You might have to cut back the ballerina dances. You might have to cut back the taekwondo classes. I have my kids on taekwondo. You might have to cut back on some of those baseball classes, those private lesson classes, right? That is if you choose to stay at that lifestyle that you have, and then you said, I don't want anything else in my life. I just want to stay where I'm at. I want to live where I'm at. Great. Well, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the one that says, how can I be better? How can I make myself, just exponentially grow? How can I get ahead of life so that I can change my family tree? That's the people that I'm talking to. This message might not be for you watching it right now. You might scroll through this video. You might say, this is not for me. Well, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the one individual who says, how can I make this better? I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I don't want to live like this anymore. And nowadays with technology, like I'm talking to you now, I'm talking to you, some of my followers that I have them from India, Argentina, El Salvador, Mexico, United States, Brazil. Those are the ones that I'm talking to. The ones that are saying, you know what? I wish somebody, because that was me, I wish somebody could have taught me the game of money 7, 8 years ago. I would have been a multimillionaire by now. But it's never too late. It is never too late. And so for me, it's about that. It's just so that I can show you that the way, so that I can give you the message of some of the struggles, the failures that I had to go through in life for me personally, what I had to do to adjust so that I can therefore provide a better lifestyle, provide a better life for me and my family. So they don't have to go through the struggles that I had to go through when I was coming up. But anyways, that's besides the point. The point is that it now costs $300,000 on average, $18,000 a year for you to raise a child. So again, it's about knowing inflation. Okay, that is probably one of the overused words that we see nowadays. Inflation, hyperinflation. Hyperinflation means that everything just keep cost it just keeps rising, and people keep losing their jobs. It's just the opposite of what inflation is. Inflation is, I gotta raise the prices, I gotta raise the interest rates in order for me to slow the demand so that prices can continue to come down. Hyperinflation means prices continue to go up, interest rates continue to go up, demand continues to go up, but job growth continues to drop. That is hyperinflation. That is not a sign that we want to see, but it seems that we might be heading that way considering how we are printing money, how we printed money over the last 2 years, 24 months. That may be the way that we're probably going to be heading here in the next couple of 6 to 12 months. Now, again, you got to do your move ahead. You got to maybe make 2 to 3 moves, 4 preferably. Right? I read this book by entrepreneur Patrick Bet David. You got to know your 5 moves ahead. If you know your 5 moves ahead, you're better than everybody else. You know exactly what you need to do. Because how many times have you come across somebody that says, "Hey, Bob, how you doing?" Just day at a time. I'm just living the day. Just another day, another dollar. That is typically what you hear from an individual. That is not the people that you want to be around. That is what you want to cut ties from. You want to be around an individual that says, "Hey, Bob, how's your day?" You know what? It's been challenging. How come? How so? Well, you know what? I got this thing going on. I got my family here. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. My business is thriving, but I'm still finding challenging. With my employees. They're asking for a raise, but the interest rates keep going, continue to go up. Um, Cost of living is just going up. But this is what we're doing. We're adjusting through that. You know what? We're gonna find a way. That is the people that you want to be around. The individuals that are looking for ways to be better. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. What the challenge is going to be ahead. Because let me tell you, government says that I'm going to give you a stimulus check. I'm going to give you $2,000 in check. I'm going to give you $2,000. Vote for me. Vote for me. I'm gonna. I'll take care of you. I'll erase the student loan debt that you have. Do you really think that's going to happen? Now, some of you, I know that that the government erased some of the debt on some of them, not all of them, like they said they would. Not even a quarter, not even a tenth of that. But don't depend on the government. Don't depend on the government to come and take care of you, because again, Social Security is not a retirement. Social Security is not a retirement. I don't know if you. I'm gonna have to make another video about that. I don't want to get too long into what really Social Security is, but Social Security is not a retirement. I was just talking to my wife last night and says, you know what, my dad's probably gonna lose his job because he's gonna go on vacation, and they didn't approve his time. So when he comes back, he might just have to retire early, and he's gonna give on. He's gonna live on his retirement. I know the man. He's my in-law. And I'm like, I knew exactly where she was heading. I knew exactly what she was telling me. So I asked her, I'm like, what do you mean retirement? What kind of retirement account does he have? Well, it's Social Security. I'm like, that's not a retirement. She's like, I know, I know. I'm like, so why you even say that? Why you even say that is a retirement? Is not Social Security is not a retirement. Ladies and gentlemen, let me break it down to you, and then you might hate me. You might say, like, how dare you even say that Social Security is not a retirement? It is not. Social Security is not a retirement. It is a form of just in case that you outlive your retirement years. But again, I'm going to make a separate video about that, because there is retirement and Social Security are apples and pears, not the same thing. They taste different. They have the same seeds, but it's not the same. It's not the same thing. They come from different trees. So with that, $300,000 in order for you to raise a child. Think about that. How do we adjust? Do you just adjust and staying flat, meaning that you there's no linear there's just a linear growth, no up and down. I'm safe, I'm comfortable, I'm okay. I don't want to take any chances in life. I like my job. I'm okay where I'm at. They pay me benefits. They gave me 401k. I make $5,000 a month. I'm good. I'm set. That is where I want to live. That's it. Or are you one of those that says, you know what? I'm all in. It doesn't matter if I fail or not. I'm going to go all in for that. I'm going to go and find a way. It doesn't matter if I fail. Because Michael Jordan said, I failed. I succeeded in life because I failed over and over and over and over and over and over again. That is where you find the beauty in life. It's not about just growth. And that is what we're seeing right now in the stock market. It just keeps growing and growing and growing. People think that this is beautiful, that it's going to be like that until, bam, you're gonna hit reality, and that's when you're gonna realize, like, what the heck, what's happening. That is what I'm talking about. It's life. It's not up. You got to go through the hills and battles, and it's mostly down. When you find your way up, okay, you're gonna go up, and then when you go down, what used to be your highest at one point is gonna be your lowest. But from there, you continue to go up. Okay. That's what the beauty of this life is about. But with that being said, just wanted to leave you with that. Hope that you find the value in it. And I hope that you can share this message to whoever you may find some value in it. With that being said, thank you so much. We'll see you in the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.